Hey guys, here we are after reading Matthew chapter
12.
And today, as you can see, I do not have my beautiful wife right next to us, but I do have our son, Evan. And Evan, after reading Matthew chapter 12, what spoke to you?
So the verses that spoke to me are 43 to 45. And they say, "When an unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places, seeking rest and finds none. Then he says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, he finds it empty, swept, and put in order. Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits, more wicked than himself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last state of the man is worse than the first. So shall it be in this wicked generation." So basically, I think it's saying that if you have a bad spirit or a bad habit, if you're able to get rid of it, and you don't fill that gap with Jesus, or that empty house with Jesus, that the bad habit or bad spirit is going to come back much worse than when it first left.
So it's always important to fill it with Jesus. So, buddy, what spoke to you? He's not going to say much. But for me, it was verse 41. And verse 41 says, "The men of Nineveh will rise up in the judgment with this generation and condemn it, because they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and indeed a greater than Jonah is here." So when you think of Jonah, you remember the story, right? God sends him to Nineveh. He gets swallowed up by a big fish. And when he gets to Nineveh, he preaches repentance to a group of pagan heathens, you could say. And they respond to the message of Jonah. And the Bible tells us that 120,000 people responded. When you think of great revivals that ever happened, great preaching, just think of Jonah. Jonah was the greatest preacher probably that ever lived. And the Bible tells us that one greater than Jonah was there in front of them. And who was that? Jesus, right? Jesus was the one that would be known as the greatest preacher, who would have the greatest impact. Because if we hear the message of love that God offers to us through his son Jesus, then that is what motivates us to make these changes. That's what motivates us to produce good fruit. And I had spoken yesterday about these wicked cities, and in the end condemning the generation that Jesus was speaking to. But now it even tells us that Nineveh itself is going to stand in the judgment and condemn that generation. So just imagine you going to heaven and seeing the nation of Nineveh. When you think of those who are saved, you usually think of Christians and Jews, right? People living during the time of Jesus or during the time of the Bible. But rarely do you think of those from Nineveh, right? This wicked city, people who knows what they were doing, but yet because they repented and they turned to God, they're going to be able to sit in judgment of these cities. Which tells me something too, because it spoke to me that God cares for everyone. That God is not just looking for a certain group of people, but the Bible tells us that he wants everyone to be saved. And that included the people of Nineveh, and that includes you. So hopefully you get to respond to Jesus as we're reading through the book of Matthew. As the Bible speaks to you, don't let those little moments of God telling you something or wanting you to make changes in your life, or maybe directing you more towards his love. So let us know what spoke to you where?
In the comments.
And make sure to
smash that like button.
Alright, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow.